everyone, and welcome to How Did You Show. Today, I have another fantastic guest on my show, very, very inspiring, Daniel Salvato. He is a good friend of mine. He's a property investor. He's a father of two and always busy. Love following him on social media, love what he does. So I thought he's going to be an amazing guest to come on the show and share with the mainly beginners and whoever is listening his story and tips from his journey. So hi Daniel, and welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming.
Nice to have you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Just the one child for now. Just the one for now. Little girl. You mentioned two children, but just one for now. Maybe eventually. The other one you probably see is my niece. That we look after my niece quite a lot. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh,
yeah, so we're really close. Hey, it's fine, don't worry, it's not a problem. Eventually too, though.
I'm seeing two children on your picture.
I know, we do a lot together. They're like little sisters, to be fair. They are. There's a couple of years difference, but they are like little sisters.
Yeah, because even on your main picture on Facebook, everywhere, you've got two children there. So I just kind of like...
I'm deceiving, aren't
I? Oh, wow. Oh, well.
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Correction. Daniel, a father of one.
That's it, not to worry, don't worry.
And an uncle of one.
No, there's a couple, but don't worry, we don't need to go far into that. But yeah, very deceiving.
Thank you so much again for coming on the show.
No, thank you for having me.
You have.
Glad to have made it here. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So, Daniel, can you first just tell the listeners who is Daniel? Can you tell us a little bit more about you?
Yeah, of course. So I'm 27 years old and I've been in the building industry, in the property world for 10 years now. So where does 10 years take me back to? So I started out, left school, trained to be a bricklayer. In between that, I did bits and bats of selling. I were always obsessed with selling things. At school, I used to sell Kit Kats, Mars bars, cans and all that sort of stuff, making 20, 30 pound a day. From that, I bought a scooter and I could move further afield. So as school went on, I started buying like Xboxes and PS4s and sold them. The times were good. We didn't have Facebook Marketplace back then, so we had like Gumtree and we had a bit on Facebook, but it wasn't as busy as it was now. So I used to buy them in, let's say, Bradford, for instance, drop them off in other places, make a couple of £100, and it were easy money. So I did that whilst then training at college to be a bricklayer. I used to hate it, to be honest. It was just dirty. It was grotty. It was hard work. But I sort of liked it, and then I lost love for it. But I really enjoyed the hustle, the side hustle. So college went on, and I bought my first car. I think I was 18 or 19. And from that, then someone just says, "Oh, do you fancy selling me your car? It's a decent motor. It's a decent runner." So I says, all right then. So I sold my car and ended up borrowing some money off Abby to buy an expensive car. Now, when I say expensive, it wasn't anything flash. It were a Golf Mark 5 and it were about £4,000. But back when you're under 20, this were all my savings. Abby had savings and I managed to persuade her, this is when we just got together, to lend me the money. So I had this silly idea of buying this car. And then I was like, oh my God, this car's just costing me money. I've got £4,000 sat in it. I'm not making a penny off it. So I sold it again. And then I continued with a bricklaying and continued buying and selling cars. So I'd just buy a car, make 300-400 quid in it and sell it. So again, that just continued throughout my teenage years. Left college and then I went to work in a stone yard just as I left college, because my sister's fiance, husband now, he worked in this stone yard and he says, yeah, it's brilliant, get yourself down here. Oh my God. So we're doing 60, 70, 80 hour weeks, 90 hour weeks on like £8 an hour. Yeah, you come out with good money, but because you're literally pumping all the hours in, it's just stupid. There's dust everywhere. I hated that. Again, it were hard work. In the stone yard, it were just basically people that had just come out of prison and stuff. It was crazy. They were good guys, to be fair, but it's just one of them jobs where if you're rough and ready, you can walk into it and go and get that job.
Yeah.
And then I thought, this is too much. So I went and did a bit of care work, worked in retail, worked in bars, worked in sales, absolutely everything. But in the side, I was still hustling, always making my money. Because when we used to go out on the weekend, go drinking or going out to wherever, an event, whichever, I always had it in my mind that I thought, right, how can I pay for this weekend, for instance? Now, you know, if I'm going to spend £150, I'm like, right, I've got to sell 2 Xboxes, or I've got to sell a car, or whichever. So I've always had that sort of hustle inside me, and it's been brilliant. I've just always continued that. And then where does it take me? So then I went working for a big firm, because a lot of parents, I'm sure a lot can relate to this. I don't know if it's just mine, but I'm pretty sure it's most parents. You know, my dad, he used to be in the trade. My mum were keen on the trade, and they were like, be a bricklayer, you'll love it. So that's originally how I got into it. And then I tried working for this firm. I got on for a really big firm doing bricklaying, but they actually put me on as a labourer. And I went on around £9 an hour. So these were all right, 40 odd hours a week, but you had to travel quite a lot. Now, they were like, yes, you've got yourself a job for life. You know, they said the same thing about Sky, get on with them, but I couldn't make it because my GCSEs wasn't up to their standards. So I went working for this building firm, and they were like, yes, you've got a job for life. You're going to be here forever. It's good money. You'll enjoy it and all this. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So I sort of listened to them. And then I got in, I was doing this labouring job, and it was terrible, sweeping big sites, you know, multi-million-pound sites, just going on. I'm dying to get on trowel, wanting to do a bit of walling and stuff, but they weren't having any of it because they had set GANs. I was literally down as number 56 as a labourer. That's all you were there. So I thought, well, this is absolutely shocking. So I went in, spoke to the manager guys, had a word with them, didn't really get anywhere. So I shot that off, and I just left. And from that, then I went and did, what did I do then? I did the car sales then. So I went and become a car salesman, because I thought, yes, suited and booted, selling cars. This is going to be brilliant. I've sold like 40 odd cars anyway before, private. Just continued that throughout the years, and I've loved it. It's been brilliant. So why not be a car salesman? So a job popped up on Facebook, and told him my experience, and went, and he says, well, really, you're not going to get the job because you ain't got any experience. We're after someone trained. I says, let me just get in. And I knew if I could just get in that door and sit down, I could just persuade him to give me the job. So I says, look, what's the harm in me coming and explaining to you why I'm interested and what I'm wanting to learn? It could be a good opportunity for us all. So that's exactly what I did. Sat down, met the guy, and he ended up offering me the job the day after. Just because I literally just blagged it. It confused the hell out of him. It was brilliant. But we really got on with each other, and it was good. So from that job of looking for someone experienced, they ended up taking a trainee on. And I thought, yes, it's going to be clean. It's going to be brilliant. I'm going to wear a shirt and tie every day, company car. So as time went on, I stayed there for a bit. But again, this was like 6 days a week. You know, Saturday, Sunday with you, Monday, Tuesday. It's ridiculous. You get 1 day off a week. Sometimes you didn't even get a day off, and it were mad long hours. You didn't leave there till 6, sometimes a bit later, especially in busy times. It was crazy. So I thought, I can't keep doing this. And we actually decided we was going to buy a property because we had Olivia coming. So this were about 3 years ago. Maybe a bit longer, just 3.5 years ago. So we decided to buy our first residential, because we both live with our parents, and we were tucked away in a little double room, sleepovers and stuff. And we decided to buy our first house. So where my sister lives, a house came up for sale, and it were on for about, I think it were on for 60. And cracking little terrace house. And I didn't really know anything about property then. But this were well, actually, let me rewind a bit. We actually bought our first house at 21. I'm getting so carried away with the job front. So our first investment house was at 21. This, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to, because it can be allowed, because I did it many years ago. I'm not advising this to anyone, but we bought it and we told everyone our intentions were to live in it. Now, our intentions was never to live in it, because it were a 4-story house. It were up and down. It were a lot of effort. And we had the intention to rent it. So what we did was put it on a mortgage, on a first-time buyer's mortgage. Very naughty, but I can do it now because it's in the past. And we managed to get a tenant in on a first-time buyer's mortgage, which again is naughty, but it's something we did back then. You know, I was young, and it happened, naughty boy, bang. And we did that, and all my grandparents, my parents were saying, you can't do this. Renting's a bad idea. Go and watch that renting TV program. Nightmare. Tenants from hell. And I'm like, give over. So we got these tenants in straight away. And then after 2 years, we turned it into a buy-to-let mortgage. Nice. Because after 2 years of having it, you can. So that put us on straight and narrow. But this tenant stayed about 3 years. That were bought when we were 21, so 6 years we've had that now, and we've only had third tenant we're on now, but they're staying. But I'll get into that. So yeah, that was my first one, and then the second residential, after being very naughty, but hey, it's the past, and everyone does it every now and again.
Yeah.
We bought our first one because Olivia were coming along, so this were up at 60,000, beautiful, right near my sister's, right near the park. It were a nice little 2-bed, to be fair. And I could see the potential in house values and once it's renovated. So I says, right, okay, Olivia's due in December, blah, 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 blah. We've got this much time to do it. Can we get it across line? So we viewed this property. Now, we're them type of people where if we say we want a house or want a car, we'll talk about it. And then next thing you know, a couple of days later, we have it. And we did this with a house. So we said, we need a house. Olivia were pushing us towards getting a house. So we said, right. So we viewed this property, met the vendor there, beautiful woman, amazing elderly lady. She was really kind and everything. And we actually did a deal in the kitchen. So we arranged a price. I can't exactly remember what it was, 50 something anyway. I think it was 55 or something like that. And she was stood there like me and you now in the kitchen. And I said, we'll ring the agent and we'll put an offer in at 55. You accept it and they'll ring you. So we sat there on the phone, 55,000, yeah, beautiful viewing, absolutely loved it. Yeah, get in touch with us when you can, bye. And then next thing you know, she rings up the agent. Oh, we've had an offer. Oh, yeah, I'll accept. So we're all like, yeah, in the kitchen, absolutely buzzing. Bearing in mind, this is like a couple of days after talking about getting a house, but we knew it were a good buy and it were a perfect location. So that's where I wanted to be. So we got that up and running, and I decided from the background I had in terms of building and renovating and picking bits up, I thought, right, I'll just renovate. Now, let's go back to car sales. This is when I'm a car salesman. So I'm renovating the property whilst I'm a car salesman by myself, more or less, barring when the windows got fit, some guys came and did them. So there's a lot of work. It took me 3 months all in all. But when I'm working as a car salesman, 60, 70 hours a week, and I'm pushing out this house, it was hard work. And I'd put my shirts on and I'd be still mucky and I'd have concrete stains on back at shirts and it were awful. And I just used to go into car sales and I was like, I just want to get this house done. I'm literally not going to get it done. I enjoy the car sales, but I'm literally fed up with it. We didn't really have much money, but we had a bit of money to do the refurb and sort of survive. And I had loads of bricky friends and builder friends that I worked for. So I decided, the boss used to, I used to get on with boss, but then we had a bit of a falling out here and there. We're like two brothers arguing, really. Really nice guy. But we just, we clashed all the time. And he wanted me to do other stuff. And I mean, he was just pushing the business to succeed. And I was doing really well. It's not that at all. But I lost the drive when I picked that house up. And I just wanted to concentrate on the house. And he annoyed me one day, and it were over a period of time, like not just over a day, it were over a year or so of these little bitchy arguments sort of things, whatever you want to say. And I were out and lads were filming windows, and it were a weekend or something like that, one of my days off, and he were ringing me and he were telling me something about this car, saying you need to come in and sort this. And I didn't flip out, but I got ticked off and I'd spoke about it with Abby. I just thought, I'm not doing this anymore. So I basically said, see you later. I'm not coming in again. I'll be in next week to collect my stuff. I'm done.
Wow.
I'm busy. I'm done. I've had enough. So I literally just went, and then it took another week for me to go back in. I was really happy. It were a really good time. It were good. But then on the other side, I was a bit like scared because I've quit my job. I'm now renovating this house. We've got a little girl on the way. I knew we had a time frame, but that's all I could concentrate on. So I think I did a month and a half on the tools whilst working at the car sales place, and then a month and a half full time, and that got it complete. So 3 months. And I think it were a couple of weeks we moved in, just got settled, and then Olivia came along. Which we were absolutely over the moon, spent a couple of days in hospital, came out and went back to our new house, and we were just settling in still. It was perfect timing, but I'd have never done it if I didn't take that leap when I did. So then I'm thinking, shit, okay, so I'm off. This is good. I'm spending time with little girl, but we need to start making some money. We've just spent like 15 grand on a refurb. I'm like, oh God, okay. So I ran a few friends up, and obviously with the trade background anyway and the experience I had, I managed to get work here and there, and then potter about doing the garden and stuff. And I were all still side hustling, selling bits and bats as well, phones, Xboxes, whatever I could get my hands on. And from that then, she
Wow.
came on. I'm going to end up going on too long. It could go on forever. But I went back to the building and got myself in a job, and then I'll explain a bit more into property and a bit further down the line once you've asked a few questions. Because otherwise, I'll end up going on all day long.
Wow.
But it's been sort of like this all the way through. But it's been brilliant.
It's
And honestly,
fascinating and inspiring story. Honestly,
it were all Olivia probably that pushed us to do it, because you set out, like people say, write down on paper a date when you want to be this or you want to complete this.
Yeah.
She wrote a bit of paper. The baby's coming out in December. Yeah. There's your bit of paper. Get it done, whatever you're doing. So that's exactly what we did.
That's amazing. Well, and you did, and you follow your instincts, and you achieved anything. Like, you always achieve whatever you put your mind into. Like when you wanted the job, for example, as a car salesman, and they told you, like, sorry, you're not qualified enough. You'll be like, just listen to me, just let me come in, and you got that, and then you do that all the time with everything, and even like getting the property sorted on time.
100%. Yeah, it's definitely something.
See, I told you I'm very inspiring.
Well, that's just half of it, but I might squeeze the next bit in very fast forwarded. Don't worry.
No, that's fantastic. So okay, so you told us who you are, and so how you got into property, but why did you get into property? Was it a freedom you were looking for, or what was it?
So when we bought that first one, I think when we were 21, we just decided, you know what, let's get into the property game. We had a bit of money saved up, and I don't mean a lot. I think we had about 10 grand each or something from all the side hustling and bits and bats and working, or maybe 15, whatever it was. So we bought that one and thought, you know what, rent it out, see what happens. And then it sort of just stopped. Like we had it rented out, and we thought, well, what do you do now? We've run out of money. How do you buy another one? Right, let's just go and work, save up again, and then 3-4 years later, go and do it again. So I think Olivia pushed us to buy the second one. Definitely, we needed to move out from the parents. I enjoyed living with my parents, and so did Abby, because we could save money. We used to go on holiday 3 times a year, 4 times a year, every year, without a doubt, all the time, for years and years. We used to do all sorts, and it with the freedom you had, because you didn't have rent, bills, council tax, all the baloney to go with it. Bearing in mind we were both working. Now we're on okay money, she were on all right money, no special, but we had the rent as well. So we're all flowing really well. So Olivia then came along and pushed us in another direction and forced us to do it, which was perfect, because now I think she's the one that's got us to where we are today. 100%.
Well done, Olivia.
Little Olivia, and she knows about it because she's on she's on it. Well, she's on every property that we go to. She honestly, she loves it, absolutely loves it. So she really has been the one that pushed us, because I think I'd have just kept jumping from job to job if we didn't get that one.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, many people say that. I heard that having a child helps you to focus.
It's a totally different mind shift.
I can't say from experience, but I'm an auntie of so many, like just by blood.
Wow.
Between me and Ben, we have 14 nieces and nephews.
Wow.
And that's just by blood. And then we are really, really friends. Like, I mean, our friends have children and all that, so we are like, really, auntie and uncle big time. And so not from my experience, but from others, I really, really can understand. Like, child can really shift your mindset and your and goals and things like that. So amazing. So well done, you guys. Well done, you. So let's obviously the podcast called How Did You? And I know that you have, and now to date you have a portfolio of 5 bachelors. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. So 5 now. We've got the 5th. Oh, sorry. The 5th one's just finalising under refurb. It'll be ready in the next sort of couple of weeks. We're just finishing one for a client, and then we're finishing that one. So sort of, if you said 4 weeks, it should be on rental market ready, pictures ready.
Amazing.
So that'll make it 5. 5, which you've got. It's
Congratulations. So how did
yeah, it's
you, I mean, you already told us how you got your first and then the second, but then
yeah,
how did you get to 5? So tell us about that journey, about that story, what you learned along the way.
yeah, of course. So basically, obviously, you know how we got our first and second, that were our residential, and then when we were doing, so I'm just going to do this very quickly so you understand sort of where I went after the car sales and buying that. So fast forward time pretty fast. We went to an auction house and I met, and I'm not going to say any names, but an old school teacher of mine. And I was in school 10 years ago, and I met him at this auction house, and I said, why are you here? And he says, I'm buying for an investor. Long story short, he basically sourced for investors, and whilst they were doing school teaching. So I thought, wow. So I got talking to him again. And then we set up a business together to start deal sourcing and doing bits and buying properties together. But we both went separate ways. It just wasn't working. He did his thing, I did my thing. And he sort of held me back. But if you saw the interview that I did with Rob Layton, the old business partner of mine introduced me to Rob, sort of says, go and meet Rob, blah, blah, blah. So I did. And then Rob's the one that sort of has pushed me in the right direction, if you know what I mean, because he's so experienced in the property world. I sort of followed his guidance. So he sort of guided me the right way. And then I sort of eased into it, and I saw that I was working with a friend of mine now. We're obsessed with properties looking. And I managed to find this property, and I thought, wow, it's on at 50 grand. That's amazing. £50,000, right? We could get like 500 rent. We'll renovate ourselves. I can just repeat what I did on my residential with this one. So I spoke to a few people. I said, how are we going to get it and stuff. And me and Abby says, oh, it's going to be a bit tight with funds. How are we going to do it? So after asking friends and family, they didn't really trust my experience because I'd only had one residential and one rental back then. Even though I knew exactly what I was doing in essence, but no one sort of believed in me because they hadn't seen it. You know, you get that a lot, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Every person in property, when they're starting out, people, they say they believe you and they have faith in you. Well, give me 10 grand and let's see how trustworthy you think, So we were looking for about 10 grand then, and no one would do it. Anyway, we managed to persuade one of my friends on, and he didn't end up putting any money down. He just came on as like a mortgage host. So we renovated it. I did all the renovations again, and then he sort of jumped on every now and again, and we've still got that one today. That were an all money out deal with that one, and we got an extra like 3 or 4 grand out, which were just ridiculous after refinance. And then from that, it sort of steadied away, and then I went to do, in between sort of doing that, just before that, I think it was before that happened, I went and became an estate agent, because after the car sales, I mentioned with the sales, I'd done the building, I'd done the car sales, and I thought, I kept thinking, I was sleeping at night, and I was like, I want to do houses. How do people do it? Let's just become an estate agent. So the similar sort of thing. Very nice guy, worked for a local company. I managed to get in, and he said, look, you're not going to cut it. We can't really give you the job because your grades, you've supposedly to be an estate agent, you've got to have X amount of grades and experience and all this baloney, which I think is silly. So I went down again, and someone else was meant to get the job, and they said it went really well, but you didn't get the job. And then a week later, this other guy who was meant to start didn't. So it sort of like fell on me to start. So then I started to become an estate agent and doing that, and that's my experience in estate agency. And then again, that was the same thought, suited and booted, watch, car, good pay, totally opposite to that. I don't ever believe any of that, but it were a good learning, because I then obviously built up experience in estate agency. I knew the local area even more because it were local, and it sort of pushed me then again to decide, no, I need to sort of get involved. And then this is where Rob took me to a few courses, and not courses, but events like Grant Cardone. And that really opened my eyes up to the world of property. Like I thought, it's like climbing through a dark hole. No one knows about it on the outside, and then you climb inside. Hello, I'm in the property world. And then I just, like, it was just crazy, absolutely crazy. And I got into the property world and understood it, and then started networking and doing bits. and really just sort of found my feet in the property sector. And then started doing deal sourcing with Rob and loads of other bits, and seeing his refurbs. And then I got a couple of refurbs on myself, and then I get a couple more refurbs on from recommendations. And then I started documenting what I was doing. The momentum just carried going on and on and on. So what we did was we built like a pot of cash and then bought our next. But the third one, it was crazy, to be fair. It were a very strange buy. We bought it Modern Method, so I'm sure a lot of people have heard of that. The good old £6,000 fee. Now, there's a post a while back that I mentioned where my business partner left me. We had to raise the money in like 10 days and get a bridge. So that was how we got the third property in the bag, which wasn't easy because we had to literally in 14 days start everything over, me and Abby, and get that done and pass it across the line. That's all been refinanced. We've got a tenant in there that we've had she were in the first one we had, so about 3 and a bit years ago. So we've had her in this second one for quite a while once the refurb went on. And then the other two that we've got are with Alpaca. So the new two, they're the ones we've got with Alpaca. Because then that takes us to Railway, the one we bought when we were 6 years, Stanley, Caster, the Modern Method, and then the two with Alpaca. So like I say, I met Michael and Sarah last year, about a year ago. They came in with the money, and then I came in with the experience, the time and the knowledge, essentially, because by this point I'd done about, it would be last year, just before lockdown, 12, 13 maybe projects. And then that's how I got sort of all the 5, which now we've obviously still got. All 4 are rented out barring one. One will be rented out, should be in like 4 to 6 weeks maybe. Get that refurb boxed off. It's just finalising the painting, get carpets down and get it rented out.
Amazing.
So that'll take us to the good old number 5.
Hey! Well done. Well done. So what sort of things you have learned along the way? Like what, having 5 buy-to-lets, obviously, from sourcing to managing it from the refurbs and things like that. What were your lessons along the way?
Well, obviously, it's different. Like, I'm so happy with. Sorry, what was that, Lynx?
I was going to say the show is, mainly for property beginners. So anybody interested in buy-to-lets now, So what sort of things do you share with them?
So I found obviously my trade background has helped me massively because I've influenced a lot of people, I've brought a lot of people in, I've worked with a lot of trades, so I've managed to build my team. It were easier for me to build my team than sort of people that are in the corporate world, for instance, and never picked up a tool in their life. Yeah. But it's probably when starting out, definitely need to. I were obsessed, and I mean like obsessed with Samuel Leeds. Like we met at Samuel Leeds. That's how we met. I've got a picture on my phone, I think, from ages ago, and then we obviously met at the Blue Oak,
which was a long time ago. Because on Samuel Leeds, I was talking in the microphone, so you saw me there in front of 200 people.
Yeah, and then we obviously were sat across from each other at Blue Oak. How weird!
And you were like, I saw you on the Samuel Leeds.
Yeah, and I recognise you.
He had so many questions. What are the chances?
Yeah. Exactly. And I just followed Samuel, and that's what I mean. The education side, you can learn so much from YouTube, whether you follow Samuel Leeds or someone else, whoever is in the property world. But the free education teaches you a lot, and then people obviously advance and stuff, but it's just more intimate then. But especially for the buy-to-let learnings, YouTube is the biggest thing. If you're a book fan, read a book. If not, jump on podcasts. Podcasts are really good now.
Or Audible.
Audibles as well.
Yeah.
And you can more or less learn it. But I think a lot of beginners, because I do a lot of sort of calls with beginners that are getting involved in property, they all say they get a bit scared. Like when they actually open up and say what they're doing, and it all sounds good, but then at the end of it, they're like, yeah, and then I'm like, well, why haven't you done that? And then they say, well, I'm a bit skeptical, I'm a bit scared, I don't dare take the leap. But I remember like the first one, it was like I was traumatized. Like, it were brilliant, but I had people, like negative people, saying, "Don't do it, do it, don't do it, don't do it." You know, all
Property
these people.
risky, just
Yeah,
get a
property's
job, be
bad. Look at
safe.
yeah, yeah. And I think everyone who buys the first one gets this same feeling, and I've had it. But if you educate yourself through YouTube, especially for the buy-to-lets game, then you can be a pro in it. Do you know what I mean? Once you get your first one, you can learn everything. But yeah,
It's
just know
everything, isn't it? The first one, once you get the first one done, everything is
they
just,
seem to just fly after that.
yeah,
It's weird, but after having all them calls, that's what a lot of people say. They get scared, they're a bit on edge. But when you take that leap and you land at long last, it just flies. But
yeah.
if you've got good people around you, you should be fine with the buy-to-lets, definitely.
You know, and I also, some people they say that, oh, but how do I find those positive people if, let's say, you don't have any friends or family members like that? Not necessarily negative, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
who can inspire you. And this is just one of those things, like, once you start networking, like you and I met via
yeah,
networking, via once
yeah,
you educate yourself on the free course, basically. It was a free course. And
yeah,
then what we had to do is just to find each other on social media, which is free again, stay in touch,
yeah,
and now you are surrounding yourself with like-minded people, even if it's social,
yeah.
like on the social media, it's still. And yeah, so that's for the beginners out there, just like, yeah, like just network, and yeah, surround yourself with the like-minded people. That helps a lot. Doesn't it? Because you
Definitely, yeah.
like you
I mean,
inspire.
at the moment, with what's going on, you're all here anyway. Literally, at the moment, everything is on a Zoom call or your laptop.
Yeah,
So, you know, the networking's slowly coming back, but God knows what's going to happen
yeah,
in terms of lockdown and all that. But this is the way, and social media is amazing. It really is. Like, my personal Facebook now has gone from 600 friends up to like 3,500,
yeah.
which are more or less probably 2,500 them, if not more, are property people.
And never met you. Most of them you have never even met in person.
No, but because I'm documenting my journey, they end up messaging me. Local people end up seeing it. Oh, I want you to do this. You get recommendations. You can advertise your work, the finishing that you're doing. And social media and networking it's a massive thing, and it's so big now, and it's so easy to do. You just go on your phone.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
easy.
yeah,
So
exactly.
it's definitely I'd be doing that.
Daniel, can I just ask now? I'm just thinking for the beginners, like, so why do you like, why do you personally like buy to lets? Because, you know, for the some people in the property world, they said, oh, buy to lets are a bit vanilla. I personally don't think that, but I'm just saying, yeah, like,
Yeah, yeah.
could be a bit not boring, but they are the most simple ones.
Corsair. Well,
Yeah,
that's
which,
you've
but
said it, Langs. That's
oh, that's
perfect. So because they're so simple, the
nice.
low cash entry. So you know you need between 25 and 35,000 pound, depending how you're buying it. That's refurb, cost down, and stuff. So it's low entry. You need it. You physically need. I don't. A lot of people have these big properties in their portfolio and so, but how can you have a portfolio if you don't have buy to lets? Where's your buy to let experience? I don't get how people can just jump onto these massive manor buildings and all this stuff without even having buy to lets. The lender wants to see experience. So
Mm.
if you can show that by having two or three, four in your portfolio, then that's enough experience. I always say you need to have a super strong foundation.
Yeah,
I honestly, I can't. I think people get so sort of misdirected by social media because they see all these fancy lights and all this stuff. Go and do like SA or rent to rent or HMO. You can go on forever with all these different things,
yeah,
but buy to lets are literally like the base foundation. Start at the bottom and work your way up to the top. Of course, rent to rent and SA and all this, if you rent to SA and whatever, I don't know much in it, but I
yeah,
suppose that's low cash entry and it can cash flow your money and you
yeah,
can get in it for very little money. But if you're going down the route of having assets, physical assets, then buy to lets. Build
yeah.
the foundation. I always said I wanted 7 before I moved on. So that's a strong foundation of
Very
7.
lovely.
Seems to be, yeah. So that's where I want to be, and then I can move on. Things might change slightly. We've got some stuff coming up in pipeline, which I won't mention now.
Yeah,
But you know, we've got the 5. It's a strong foundation. The lenders like it,
yeah,
so they're going to lend to you. But as a beginner, buy to lets. I mean, even experience. I spoke to so many experienced people. They've been all the way around the different niches and whatever else, and they've gone into every sector, and then they come back to buy to let. Why? Because it's low cash entry and it's easy. You got to remember, like the HMOs, I know people with HMOs, and they've got so much money tied up in that property. Yeah, it's cash flowing and the numbers look good, but they might have 50, 60 grand tied up in it. In a buy to let, you have less than 10 grand. You know, if like my second one, Stanley, or second or third, that were all money out plus 4,000. The other two, I think one left about 6,000 in and other were 4,000 in. Well, after the first 2 years, that's paid for.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Definitely.
so, and you've got one tenant to look after.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly. That's the thing.
it's easy. It's much easier. So I think that's definitely get the buy to lets on the portfolio.
I
It's a
like
big
it.
thing.
So can you advise the mainly the beginners, but that's important information to anybody. How do you fund the property? Because I understand, like some people don't understand remortgaging. I don't know if that's how you do it, or but can you just give you a little bit of like, so how do
Yeah,
you scale from one to the other? So like, where do you find the capital for it and stuff?
yeah. So we've used investors. Oh God, we've used investors. We've used bridging. We've done bridging once. How did we find the investors? By documenting our journey. The people that have come to me have literally looked at my Facebook. I couldn't advise it anymore. Like, document what you're doing, whatever you're doing, in terms of property, because people want to see it. I've got people now, like footballers and stuff, watching me all the time. I get messages off like footballers and stuff saying they've got money tied up, what can I do with it, or free money, whatever. We'll follow you. I've got finance guys that are watching me, ready to leap when there's a good opportunity for them. But I've spoke to them, and everyone you speak to say, oh, I've been watching you for the past year, or oh my God, I've seen your story, I've followed you, I've seen you start at the bottom and work your way up. So documenting your journey is a massive help to getting investment funding. It's just the biggest thing, and it's free. Bridging, we've done bridging once, on the modern method one. That was it's a good way. Bridging's a brilliant way because it can be cheap, but it's tricky in the buy to let world because they've all got because the buy to let's so low entry. They like stuff like I think it's 80 grand or 90 grand onwards before you start getting like decent lenders for the bridging. You can do it on the smaller stuff, but you've got to imagine the margins aren't huge in a buy to let, so you've got to have a good deal to then put in the bridging because it's a bit more expensive for a lower lending or lower rate. And what else have we done? Investors and cash. We bought cash, but that again were we investors. So yeah, the three ways are cash, investors, which give you the cash, and the bridging. Obviously, the one you shouldn't really do it. To be fair, if you've got no properties at all, I wouldn't advise doing it. We did it back then with the first house where we got a buy-to-let a residential mortgage, but it's definitely not legal and it's not recommended by me anyway. So I won't get too much onto that one. But they're definitely the three that you need to concentrate on. Yeah.
Amazing. That's great advice. Absolutely great advice. And what would you think, Daniel? What would you think were your like the biggest, like your top three tips? Like, what is your like the biggest lessons you've learned in that journey? Because obviously, going through what you went through, your journey is so fascinating and amazing, and the way your goals, your visions, and all that. So, what would you say that's your biggest lesson?
I don't know. There'll be people look on my page. There'll be a lot of lives in terms of I go on about knowing your numbers, knowing your trades, knowing the timescales. Like all these property people that get involved in property, they go on all these fancy courses, how to refinance all your cash, and all this sort of stuff. They get so tied up in trying to learn about all that stuff that's not even needed because an expert like a broker or someone in finance, they are the expert in that industry. But what people are missing out on is learning the costings. So meaning in the buy-to-let process or any tradesman, no one's learning the costings of trades. They think they use this rule of thumb where they get 3 trades in, say it's 1,000, 2,000 and 3,000, and then they go with the average and experience. Well, that don't really work. You need to make go for the bigger picture and actually figure out what people are charging. Find out day rates in your local area. Find out what people are charging, because if you don't, you'll get swindled when you come to do maintenance, long term after. And if you don't if you don't know that, you might be paying 27 grand on a buy-to-let refurb, and you might do that 4 times on 4 different buy-to-lets, and you might think that's good. And then you might come to me and I said, no, you should be doing that sort of work for 18, for instance. And you're like, so I'm 40 grand out of pocket. Do you see what I'm saying? But people don't learn this stuff. They want to learn all this, the finance side, but you've got to know the timescales, the costings. They're the 2 main ones. Timescale of costings of trades. How do you find this out? Ring trades up. How long will it take you to fit a kitchen, and how much will it be? If you're working on day rate, how much is your day rate? If you're working in West Yorkshire, or wherever you are, you can find this information out. But people are running round all the time, round in circles, going for all this big juicy refinancing business. There's experts that are already doing that, so stop becoming an expert in something you don't need to. Learn the basics.
Learn what you need to know, like you actually need to know. That's brilliant.
Exactly what you need to be doing. 100%.
Fantastic.
Top tip number 2 is know your area. So I literally know where we invest like the back of my hand. It's ridiculous. Like, there's certain streets. People, obviously, there's a lot of people that do either overseas investing, so they look for a source, or across the country investing, for instance, up in Wales or in West Yorkshire, and you might not be from there. So how do you understand and learn that? You ring up local agents. Get your book out, ring up local agents, go on Mouse Price, have a look at the house costings, ring up trades again to find out the costings in that area, because different parts of the country, different prices. And just literally know your area, know that area, ask agents, is this a good area? Because what I've found is, and this is everywhere, 1 or 2 streets away could be beautiful, the best rental part ever. And then 5 streets away could be the worst place ever. If you invest in that, game over. What? Because you didn't know your area?
You didn't do real due diligence.
Exactly. And you can do it. People say, oh, can I do it? I live 2 hours away. It don't take, it takes 2 hours in a car. Just go down there and look. If you're really going to invest in this area, or find someone in that area you can trust, rely on, and get a deal sorted with them.
Absolutely.
But you can do a lot of it on your laptop and bring in agents. But people, again, seem to miss these points. They just sort of dabble in an area here, dabble in there. But if you pick that wrong street, it's going to shut you down big time. It's going to be game over for your property world. I mean, some people get involved in property and they might have 200,000. And then this is what a lot of people do. Let's just say they've got 100,000 to invest. And then they buy a property, not doing anything that I've said, learning the trades, learning the costings, learning the area. They just buy it because the numbers look like the work. So what they do then is they make a massive cock up, or the builder takes them to the bank and takes all the money. The refurb goes peat-on. It doesn't ever get finished, or when it does, it costs a fortune. You overspend on everything, and you've invested in one of the worst possible places in that area. And then what they do is they tell everyone on social media it were an experience and it were a lesson well learned. No, that is not a lesson well learned. I don't get why people say that. You can go on social media and follow so many people that have made that same mistake. So why do you need to make that mistake? But people are adamant that they've got. I had it last week. A guy has made a massive boo-boo of this refurb. Builder took him everything. Worst thing that could have ever happened. But he's got a pension and loads of bits in background. And he's like, oh, it were a lesson well learned. Are you mad? Why did you need to learn that? I don't. Honestly, people need to understand. Don't learn these. Don't make that mistake. Let someone else, let Lengths go out and learn that mistake. Don't be losing your money, because let me assure you, if you've got 50k and you learn one of them mistakes, you may as well go and work for the rest of your life. Do you know what I mean? So you need to definitely know that. And top number 3 would be document your journey.
Yes.
2 years ago, I remember when we were at the Progressive 10X conference with Grant Cardone, and I got a picture with Uncle G. Absolutely loved it. Started putting it on the social media. The Grant Cardone Progressive one, and I documented that. I documented all my refurbs. I put everything on, whether it's just pictures. You can put before and after pictures. It's so easy to collage something together. You don't have to do these fancy videos. Just put the content out. you might not get any likes. I remember doing videos. I had a little lav mic on my top, and I was like, "Hey, I'm Daniel Salvato. This is my refurb." I used to get no interest, no comments, no nothing. And I thought, well, this is a bit mad, but who cares? Eventually, like Gary Vee says, you need a library of stock.
Yeah.
If you've not documented your journey, let's say you're an investor, and I say, Mr. Investor, go and look at my Facebook. I've documented everything I've done. He's going to be like, wow, your Facebook is unreal.
Yeah.
Or if you don't document it, he's going to be like, well, why would I trust you when Lenx has been investing for the same amount of time? She's telling me the same as you, but she's documented it. And you know what? I like Lenx style. Like, document what you're doing. It's so easy now with your phones. You can get your cameras, whatever. And people going about having these fancy edits. This is the thing with social media. It's an amazing thing, but it scares people so much. I've seen so many people, like you've invested in one of them gimbals, absolute amazing bit of kit, but do you need that gimbal to start out?
No.
You don't need it to start out. You don't need these fancy mics to start out.
No.
You don't need anything. You can literally just record stuff on your phone.
Yep.
And even if you don't want to record it, just pictures work a treat. But documenting your journey has got me, well, I've done 17 refurbs now. And from being on social media, I think all of them have come from recommendations and people knowing someone who's known me, or just getting, it's insane. And it all reverts back to documenting. That's literally where it all goes back to. It's bizarre. So that's definitely tip number 3.
That's amazing. It's a great advice. And if so, the listeners who listens to every or most of the show, most of the episodes on the show, this is something what is being mentioned every single time, which is so important. The reason why I'm saying that now is to make it so clear for them, is that documenting is so important. The power of social media is crazy. Like, I personally also found investors via social media, or future business partners, or people who want to work with me, purely through social media, which is free. Just by and I was also one of those people who, if I use social media, it was maybe post once a year, and it's just to kind of like look at my friends' lives, like what, just to see, just to know more about my friends from back home and things like that. That's what I was using it for, basically just scrolling through. But once I learned the power of social media, and I'm still not doing it that well as that much as I should, but just from what I started already, I receive messages from someone saying, "Oh, I've been watching your journey. I love your lifestyle. I love this. I love that. I love that. Can we have a chat?" Then we have a chat, and I found out he's got that. This is what he wants. This is how much money he's got. This is what he's looking to do. This is what he would like me to do. And it's just amazing. It's like social media. It's free, and I would just add to your point as well for the beginners, is that most importantly, stay yourself. Just don't think like, oh, what they want to see. For example, no, just be you. Literally, just stay yourself, because that's
personality sells, definitely. I think personality, experience, is of course a massive help, but a lot of investors want that personal touch. They want to know that they're investing in you as a person, essentially. Of course, they're investing in the property, or they're investing in your investment, whatever. But essentially, it all boils down to you. Are you the person they want to invest with? Are you easygoing? Do you connect well? Are you honest? Are you trustworthy? So
how you overcome your problems when you have a bad day, when a mistake happens, how you overcome it. Do you stay in touch when things go wrong? Are you honest? Are you open? It's so important, isn't it? Just stay yourself, be you. Brilliant. Great tips, Mr. Salvato. Love your tips. Okay, so I always ask everybody on the show what book they have to recommend.
The book that I can recommend, I'm not a big book guy, I will be honest, but I have got a book, and it's the 12-week year. I've sort of been reading it for a while now and not got as through it as much as I'd have liked to. I'm not a big book guy. I like the podcasts, I like the audios and all that sort of stuff, but it's a good book, and it's got a lot of information. I feel as if that were a book that I'd recommend, I'd be reading that, because if you can even take a couple of weeks off stuff or whatever, obviously that's trying to get 12 weeks into, a year into 12 weeks, but even if you can do in 6 months or whatever. It helps. There's little tips in that book that I've taken away and used and applied to my business, not as harshly as that book recommends, but I have, and it's benefited my business. So that'd be definitely a book to recommend, 100%.
Amazing. Just to join you in this conversation. So I am same like you. I'm not hugely into books as to read. However, since I have the Audible, I can easily go through 2 books a month, which is amazing because before I had Audible, I literally maybe read 3 books, and 2 of them were kids' books, probably. Do you remember when I was little? So also don't really like read, but I really enjoy Audibles, and so for me it's a game changer. And the 12-weeks here is really, really, really good book. It's a great recommendation. It's basically, I'm not going to spoil that for anybody because obviously we want, like, it's a recommendation for them to read it and listen to it. But just very quickly, it's basically they're trying to explain how you can, when you are looking at the year and you have 12 months, instead of looking at the goals for the 12 months, you kind of like squish things into 12 weeks. And that's how you create your goals, not for 12 weeks and 12 weeks. And they're like a little chunks, smaller chunks, instead of looking at a year. What do I want to achieve in a year? So it's giving you tips of how to basically structure goals and plans. Yeah, it's good. Great recommendation.
It is good, definitely.
And what about, this is also another question I always ask my guests, is what would you recommend to watch? And that could be either property related or mindset related, or even if none of that, if you just want to recommend something completely different. It's up to you.
Everyone has probably watched this anyway, but Wolf of Wall Street, it's literally, if you watch that, you could feel like a normal person, right? Watch, and then you put that on TV and you're just inside, you're like getting pumped up, and it's just the satisfaction of watching him from nothing hustle. Like, I love hustle, and it's just amazing. Work his way all to the top, and after that you're like, oh my god, I'm going to be a millionaire. It's amazing. Do you know what I mean? You can literally put the work in, put the effort in, and I'm making it to be a millionaire. And that definitely, again, I'm not a massive film lover, but that has always sat with me, is that it's an amazing film. It just gets you, it gets you bubbly inside and excited, and it feels like you can do it, and you can literally, if you put your mind to it and put all the stuff in place, it can definitely be done.
That's one of the lessons in the movie. But the second lesson in the movie is also just don't push it too much, because you can end up bad.
Oh yeah, of course, definitely.
Balance, basically.
But whilst you're doing that, document the journey as well. That's what you need to be doing,
Exactly. But Leonardo DiCaprio, he's really great in that movie. Like, loads of people remember Leonardo, especially like in our age, because we are similar age, aren't we? Being from Titanic, so they remember, like, they associate Leonardo with being like the romantic, young boy. But it's like, in fact, he's one of the best actors in the world. And like, for example, in the Wolf of Wall Street, what an action, like what an acting. He's amazing, isn't he? There.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
really
good. Definitely gets you going.
That's fantastic. Oh, Daniel,
No
that was great recommendations, great stories, great tips. I'm so happy you came on the show. Honestly, you have an incredibly inspiring story. You're gonna go far, and I know it. And I'm so glad to be your friend, and I'm so glad that you came on the show and to share that. And I'm sure that all the listeners will learn a lot from you. And I'm really looking forward to see more of yours, more of your journey and your story. So can you tell everybody where to find you if they want to get in touch with you, or if they want to follow your journey? Where are you?
Social media, so Facebook, Instagram. So Facebook's just Daniel Salvato. You can follow me on Instagram as well, mainly just Facebook. I know there's the free platforms, but I just feel Facebook works wonders for me. Facebook's where it all goes. So look me up on there. You'll find me with Daniel Salvato. And again, thank you for having me on, Lynx. It's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. It's been going for a while, hasn't it? But we've got there in the end. It's been good. Definitely.
I really enjoyed the show today. Honestly, thanks so much again for coming. And I'm sure, as I said, I'm sure that your tips are very, very helpful for all the listeners, and I'm looking forward to seeing everything you're going to be achieving, because I'm sure you're going to be achieving a lot.
Thank you very much, Lynx.
Thanks again. Bye, Daniel.
Bye. Take care. Bye.